Hello YouTube, this is TCG Battles Collections here. Today I am bringing you my finished Narukami deck. It's mainly Eradicators, but I added a few non-Eradicators to the deck just to add some power and shields. So first off, we have the Grade Zeros. First we have the go-to starter for me so far is Flag of Raging Corpusant. Automatic ability. Once you write on a Narukami right on top of it, you move him to the rear guard. Best for a starter. Next is activation cost. You can move him to the soul and give one of your Narukami units an extra 3,000 power. So that's good for another unit. This one is one that you'll really need if you want to get a certain unit. Eradicator Strike Dagger Dragon. Like Corpusant, he can move back, and his activation ability is that you can put him into the soul and choose another unit named Sword Dance Eradicator Heeson, and if your that's already in the rear guard, and if your vanguard is Supreme Army Eradicator Zuiten, those Heeson and this card move to the soul, and you can search your deck and just ride Eradicator Dragonic Descendant. So let's say you just ride a grade 2, the grade 2 is Wheaton, and you have Heeson in the rear guard. You can use this card, its ability, and superior ride Dragonic Descendant. So a great way to get a grade 3 before your opponent, or if you're grade locked and you don't have any grade 2s. Next we've got the triggers. I run 5 critical triggers, 1 Spark Edge Draco Kid, and 4 Poloxes. None of them have any effects, but 5 heal triggers is is actually a good amount for an Narukami deck. I know some of you might disagree that you'd like to have mainly critical triggers in an Narukami deck, but I would mainly need some other cards. Mainly stand triggers. I only run 4 Spy Eye Wyverns. Stand triggers are an important part of a well-balanced deck. Some people might just want stand and critical triggers, or just critical and draw triggers, along with the heal trigger rule. Anyway, those are the stand triggers. Next, I run only 3 draw triggers. I know some of you might want more, but I only have 2 Blue Gem Eradicator Blue Gem Carbuncles and 1 Mischievous Squirrel Kyoshi. I'm planning on maybe remaking this deck for a little bit, for like an extra draw trigger or 2. Mainly because a card advantage is best when you want to guard. And last but not least for the grade zeros is the heal triggers. Naturally, if you're making an Eradicator deck, you want Worm Toxin Eradicator Sayobo. 4 heal triggers are needed. Okay, so those are basically the heal triggers. So those are all the grade zeros. In total for grade zeros, I have 18. But some of you, I keep an extra grade 0 just to add some extra defense. And next we have the grade 1s. First, I have 1 Lizard Soldier Ryoshin, a pretty decent 9,000 point attacker. If the number of rear guards your opponent has is 2 or less, this card gets an extra 3,000 power when attacking. Basically, if you use them for your starting vanguard, you better make sure that your opponent doesn't have any other rear guards. Next, I run 2 Ceremonial Bonfire Eradicator Castors. Their skill, once placed on the rear guard circle, you can discard 1 card and draw another one. And this card this effect can only be used once per turn. This effect can only be used for every caster you place. Next, 2 Eradicator Wyvern Guard Golds. The Eradicator Narukami P Guard. I'm planning on getting 2 more of these. Currently I have 2, and the deck has worked just fine just with these 2 perfect guards, but if any of you have any problem with that, comment below. Anyway, 2 P guards, pretty basic. Next, I have 4 Lightning Fist Eradicator Deweys, a very good a very good 11k support unit if you have Eradicator, Gauntlet Buster, Dragon in your deck. If you have Eradicator, Gauntlet Buster, Dragon as your Vanguard or Rear Guard, and this card boosts it, you can Soul Blast one card, and it gets another 5,000 power. So overall, a good booster for Gauntlet Buster. Next, I run 4 Sword Dance Eradicator Heesens. So, as you remember, the Strike Dagger Dragon will need at least one Heesen and one Suiten in your Vanguard Circle for the Dragonic Descendant Superior Ride. So, very good with that. So I run 4 of those. That's all for the grade 1s. Next, for the grade 2s, I run 3 Blood X Dragoons. They're not Eradicators, but Counterblast 1 when they attack, their power can become 12,000. So a 12k attacker. So basically, it's just a 12k attacker. These cards are good if you want for a good offense. Next, I have 3 Demonic Dragon Mage Magellas. I'm not sure how to pronounce these. But these cards are good because once you place them on the rearguard circle, one other unit gains an extra 2,000 power. So if you have if you want to go out with an all-out attack with your Vanguard, these cards are the best for an Narukami deck. If you have 4 of these, that's a maximum of 8,000 power. But 3, only 6,000 in total. So those are 3 grade 3s. I mean grade 2s. Alright, next I run 2 Supreme Army Eradicator Suitens. Their abilities in the Vanguard or Rear Guard. When this unit's attack hits a Vanguard, if you have a Vanguard with Eradicator in the name, which obviously if this card is a Vanguard, it'll be automatic, no matter what, you can flip 1 card in the damage zone face up, and you can soul charge 1 card. For some of you, you might not know what soul charging is, so let me take one of the previous cards I used. Let's say he attacks and it goes through the top card of your deck, moves to the soul. The soul is the stack of cards underneath. So if you didn't already know that, that's what a soul charge is. A soul blast is taking the number of cards underneath and sending them to the drop zone. It's described like right over here, that the arrow moving in, right over there, is the soul, means soul charge, and if it shows a number of cards moving out, that is soul blast. Some soul blasts just require cards to be taken out of the soul. Some just need a specific amount of damage. Next, I run 2 Eradicator Saucer Cannon Wyverns. A very decent 8,000 point unit. When this card is placed on the Vanguard or Rearguard, Counterblast 1. If you have a Narukami Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your opponent's Rearguards in the front row and retire it, and your opponent draws 1 card. So overall, if you want to get rid of your opponent's Rearguards, this card is good, but it also gives your opponent a slight advantage because it lets them draw an extra card. So I'm gonna run 2 of those. Next, we have Thunder Spear wielding Exorcist Knights. Only got 1 of him. His continuous ability is Restraint in the Vanguard or Rearguard circle. Restraint means he cannot attack. Okay? But it has an activation cost. Counterblast 1, Restraint is negated. So you'll be able to attack. So if you're running at least this Thunder Spear wielding Exorcist Knight, you have to counterblast during each of your turns in order to use this card. So I just put one of him because I need it, because his other ability is that in the Vanguard or Rearguard circle, when he attacks and you have a Narukami Vanguard, he gets an extra 2,000 power. So he's a 12k attacker. So you're gonna need like a 12k attacker in your deck. Mainly I only run 1 of him because I want to save up my counterblast, because there are a lot of cards in this deck that require counterblasts. So you're going to need 1 of him. Next, we have Double Gun Eradicator Hakusho. Okay, so automatic skill. When this card is placed on the rearguard circle, your opponent's rearguard, when your opponent's rearguard is put into the drop zone, his skill is activated. Due to but only if it's due to an effect by one of your cards that's sent it to the graveyard. And if you have an Eradicator Vanguard, this unit gets 3,000 power. I made a mistake before when one of your opponents units sent to the drop zone is what I forgot to say. So run one of him. I'll put like an extra one just in case, because this card is also a 12k attacker. So you're gonna want to run one of him. Next, we're finally up to the grade 3s, and I think you'll actually like these that I got. So first we have Martial Arts General Dame. Not exactly the very best unit, but it's a 12k attacker because at the beginning of your turn you have to automatically soul charge one card, and this card gets an extra 12,000 power. Next is activation ability. Soul Blast 8 cards from underneath him. So if you have 8 cards underneath him, send them straight to the drop zone. And counterblast 5 cards, which is kind of the basic ability for certain cards with major Soul Blasts. For this card, his Soul Blast must be activated in the Vanguard Circle, and so must his Soul Charge. Next, when you activate the skill, for each Narukami rear guard you have, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. So if this guy's your Vanguard and you have 5 Narukami rear guards, your opponent can retire. You can retire up to 5 of your opponent's rear guards. So actually a good unit in a way. So running two of him. We have a classic Narukami unit, which you all might think is a treat. Dragonic Kaiser Vermilion. The very first Narukami triple rare, and by far, when it first came out, the very best. His activation skill, his limit break, is counterblasts 3 cards. He gets an extra 2,000 power, and he can attack every unit in your opponent's front row. So this can actually stop intercepts. And next, his second ability is that if you do not have a Narukami Vanguard or rear guard, he loses 2,000 power. One drawback for an incredibly powerful card. So basically, this is a really good card. I suggest, but I only run one of him, so that's the only drawback. But next, something even better. 2 copies of his Cross Ride, Dragonic Kaiser Vermilion, The Blood. Activation ability, limit break 5, or as I like to say, ultimate break, since it can only activate it like one away from annihilation. This unit, by counterblasting 3 cards, this card gets 5,000 power and +1 critical, and this unit gets to attack every unit in your opponent's front row. So in addition, for an additional 5,000 power and +1 critical, he also has Dragonic Kaiser Vermilion's original limit break ability to attack every unit in the front row. Second, if Dragonic Kaiser Vermilion is in the soul, he gains an extra 2,000 power. And last, the Lord ability. If you do not have another unit from the same clan as this card, you cannot attack, no matter what, Vanguard or rear guard. So, I'm going to run 2 of him. Very classic and powerful card. Next, we've got Eradicator, Sweep, Command, Dragon. This unit is by far a very cool card, especially with its limit break. Counterblast 2, Soul Blast 2. When your opponent's rear guard is sent to the drop zone due to an effect from one of your cards, you can pay the cost. If you do, you draw a card, choose one of your opponent's rear guards in the front row, and retire it, and this card gains an extra 5,000 power. So, with his limit break, he's a 16k attacker. But next, it's on a max skill. Choose one of your opponent's rear guards. Choose one of your rear guards with Eradicator in its card name, and put it into the soul. And then place this card on the Vanguard Circle. And then you can choose one of your opponent's front row rear guards and retire it. And so it's put in the drop zone. And next it has a Lord ability. So it can attack in the Vanguard rear guard circle if it if you don't have another Narukami unit. So that's one of him. And last, the card I showed you in the mail day, Eradicator, Bowing Saber Dragon Reverse. A lot of people are probably going to be very excited about this unit. Okay, so this is Limit Break. Activation: counterblast 2 cards and lock 2 of your rear guards. If you for some of you new players, locking means take one of your cards and flip it face down. The new Link Joker clan flips your opponent's cards face down. So if you're using one of these cards, it's a risky move, because by locking 2 Eradicators, that's what it says in the effect, by locking 2 of your Eradicator rear guards, it's not only weakening the amount of attacks or power you gain, but in exchange for that sacrifice, your opponent chooses 2 of their rear guards to retire, and this card gains a 1,000 power. And the best part about this is that you can activate it up to twice a turn, because it's an activation ability, so it can be used as many times as possible as long as the conditions are met. Next, its continuous ability. If you have Eradicator Bowing Sword Dragon in the Soul, it gains an extra 2,000 power at all times. So its base power is 13,000. And last, it has the Lord ability, which you all know if you don't have a card in the Vanguard or Rearguard circle of the same clan as this card, you cannot attack at all. So that's one of him so far. Planning on getting the Break Ride. So that's all the cards in my new Narukami deck. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and like this video. I'll be doing more deck profiles and possibly some pack openings or trial deck or box openings, etc. And please stay tuned for my episode of Vanguard Tournament of Champions. This has been TCG Battles Collections, and stay tuned for next time.